You're listening to Racing Future Radio. Here's your host, Mr. Dennis Mills, with this week's guest, Mr. John Snobelen.
Travel a little further north from Georgian Downs, we would come to Sudbury, Ontario. Now, how are we doing in Sudbury?
You know, I was out in Sudbury last week talking to the horseman, dedicated bunch of folks. I ran into a guy there, I got to tell you, Dennis. I walked in the door and I got this big fella came over and gave me a great big hug. Now, I've had other people greet me with other things and places, but I hadn't seen this gentleman. His name is Fern Brisbaugh, and I hadn't seen him for, gosh, it must have been 25 years. And I've known him forever, and he's had been a minor investor in horses and stuff. And he's typical, I think, of the folks in that community that own horses. He loves it. He enjoys the horses. It's an important part of his family's life. He's never made his living at it. It's not what he does for a living, but it's an important thing for him. Now, he was racing horses there long before SARP, and he will be a long time after SARP. So what they really want to know in Sudbury is how do we do a program here that meets the needs of our local community. Really, it's maybe the toughest deal in Ontario because of where it's located. I mean, there's no secret to this. It's summer racing, obviously. It's hard to keep a horse population employed, if you will, when you've got a limited season for racing. And it's really expensive to ship horses around, so it's hard to bring horses there from other parts of Ontario. The good news is it's a good track. It's got a great backstretch. They've invested a lot of resources in the backstretch so they can house horses there. And the horsemen are dedicated. So we've been up talking to them. We've got, I think, enough money and support to help them keep the operation going. But they're going to have to look to the community and say, how do we increase our fan base? How do we increase the amount of wager we have here? How do we make this business make more sense in Sudbury? But I think they'll get it done.
Do you find, and focusing on Sudbury here, do you find that because of this renewal that's happening in the horse industry here in Ontario, that this is bringing out a much more active municipal sort of involvement to measure whether or not they want to step up in terms of supporting the track as an asset? I know, for example, in hockey, which is a no-brainer, if an elected person municipally didn't support the local hockey team, they'd be shot. Is there some kind of a renewed interest in the municipal politician towards our sport?
I think beaten and then shot. It's what would happen to the hockey team. But we've seen it in a couple of places. We've obviously seen it in Fort Erie, where the local municipality is really committed to the future of that track. Less so in other communities, but I think maybe because they haven't had to. And we've heard from some municipal politicians around Ontario that they're casting an eye on the industry, and they're starting to understand, as the provincial government did 2 years ago, the importance of the economic driver in their local community. And some places are going to need a lift from the municipality because of the fit with the overall product mix of racing in Ontario. In a place like Sudbury, it's a really, really big challenge. Mm-hmm. And part of that challenge is going to have to come from municipalities, I think, certainly from the local fan base and the local wagering side, because the province itself can't lift all of it. It can do a lot, but there has to be some help from the business side.
John, thank you so much for your support, your dedication, and good luck. Keep it going. Hope to have you back soon.
All right, enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay.
You've been listening to Racing Future Radio with your host, Mr. Dennis Mills. This week's guest was Mr. John Snobelen.